welcome to another episode of Tampa Bay Politics. I'm your host, Angela Birdsong, affectionately known during the week as the Medicare lady. But I am so happy because one of our councilmen has decided to visit us today. It's Mr. Louis Vera. Hello, Louis.
How are you doing, Angela? It's such a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you for coming.
I'm smiling under this mask, by
I
the way,
know,
so.
I can tell. Now, you know what? Whenever I see someone in the hot seat over there, I always start at the beginning.
Yes.
Where were you born?
Sure. Well, I am originally from San Juan, Puerto Rico. That's where I was born. My family is originally from Cuba, and my mother's side came to Tampa in the United States in the early 1930s. My great-grandfather, a man by the name of Juan Silverio, exiled from Cuba when Batista first took over. He was an officer in the Cuban army. And when that regime took over, he left to Tampa and practiced medicine here in Tampa at the Centro Asturiano Hospital. And they lived here for about 12 years in the Tampa Heights area. And then they came back to Cuba, that side, and then they would leave in 1960 when Castro took over and that side would come to Miami. My father's side would come to Tampa in 1960, near where Academy Prep is in near Ybor City.
Yes.
They lived right next to the Brick Episcopalian Church. And then both sides would move to Puerto Rico like many Cubans did. And then my parents met there. And then after I maybe turned, like maybe 9 months, we would move back to Tampa, and then I would grow up in the Temple Terrace area.
So you don't really have any memories of Puerto Rico as a child?
None.
Okay.
My mother does, and my older brother Tony certainly does, because he was maybe 4 or 5 when they left. But and I still have family there. My uncle Eduardo Suarez is a professor in philosophy at the University of Puerto Rico and still lives there and whatnot.
Okay.
So we do have some family there.
That's
still
wonderful. My family immigrated from the Caribbean into New York.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so I know what it's like to have
Yep.
those Caribbean roots. Now, where did you actually go to school?
That's a great question. So I started off at River Hills Elementary in Temple Terrace, which is, that's classic Temple Terrace. Then I
Okay.
would go to Florida College Academy, which is I would go to Protestant schools after that. Florida College Academy and Temple Heights, which were Protestant schools. And I always joke that I know my Bible very well because I went to Christian schools, which is, so I'm Catholic and everything, but I don't go to church all the time. But
My son spent some time at Jesuit.
there you go.
It was good for him.
Oh yeah, great school. Probably one of the best in Tampa, if not the best. But so I would go there, and then after that, I would go to the University of South Florida, to USF.
Okay, wonderful.
Mhm.
And what'd you study?
I was a history major. I've always loved United States history, and in fact, I was telling my son, who's 13, I was telling him that when you're in school and you have a big topic that you like a lot, right? It's so cool if that topic can be in school because it really helps you with your grades. Like for me, U.S. history transcended onward to politics,
Yes.
which transcended to sociology and economics and different. There's so many things that it touches. So my personal interest in that really helped me a lot at USF.
And with all the things that are going on in politics now, there's a lot of historical references
Oh yeah,
that come
sure.
up.
Oh yeah,
And for the first time, we actually got to see the electoral college
Yep.
work
Oh yeah,
on
sure.
TV.
Yep, which is neat.
Wi-
Yep.
And even one, I forgot which state it was. I think it was Pennsylvania. They had a box from Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah, probably Pennsylvania.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yes. So they
That's
keep
cool.
all those historical treasures, and they
yep.
still use them today. So it's really amazing.
Oh yeah, sure.
So after you left college, what did you do?
Well, I graduated USF in the year 2000, and then after that, I immediately went to law school, and I would go to Stetson College of Law. I began in, what was that? August of 2000, and then I would graduate 3 years later. And I have
Okay.
2 brothers. One is an attorney, Tony, who practices in disability in
Okay.
Clearwater. And then I have another brother, Juan, who's developmentally disabled and lives in Brandon and Temple Terrace, half the week with my mom, half the week in Brandon in his group home.
Okay.
And so I kind of I joke that I followed my brother to law school, which
All
is kind
right.
of funny. And I've
Which
always
happens a lot.
Yep. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it does. And I've always worked in the area of general civil litigation. So I was Full-time attorney for about 13 years from '03 to 16. And I was very active in
That
the
was
bar.
private practice?
Yeah, oh yeah, I've never
Okay.
been in the public
Okay.
sector, never
Okay.
have been. And so I always worked in the private practice. And in fact, that's where we met, which is funny at I believe it was a Hillsborough Association for Women Lawyers event, or it may have been JIBA or JIBA and the Hispanic Bar, or it
Yes,
was
it
one of
was.
those three.
Yes, it was like the Hispanic bar was there and Jiba was there. It was like this. It was more than one bar that came
Yes,
together.
yeah, we always do that.
Yes, it was a great fun party,
Yes.
and I got.
And yeah, and we always do that. And I was very active. I would always, and I'm still active and supportive, because I believe in the wonderful work of our bar associations. They're so historic. I mean, the Hispanic bar is relatively newer, and it was formed. We always stand in the shoes of great people like Steve Barbas or Judge E.J. Salsinas, or
Okay.
Francisco Rodriguez, so many different attorneys. And of course, George Edgecombe Bar Association has been around for a while, started up by,
And that's our
you know,
black bar
yes,
in Tampa.
yep,
Yes.
historically African American bar. And so many great attorneys like Delano Stewart, Senator Arthena Joyner, just so many, Warren Dawson, so many
Yes.
attorneys who are giants in the legal community who helped start, found, or bring up that bar association. And we were
Yes.
talking about my dear friend Fentress Driscoll, our state representative, who's a former president of JIBA,
Yes.
of course. And I was, when I got elected, I was incoming president of the Tampa Hispanic Bar, but
Okay.
I never took over because I got elected, and they were like, "Mi
Oh.
hermano, tú no tienes tiempo. You don't have time." You know what I mean?
You choose.
So yeah, yeah.
All right.
Mhm.
Wonderful. Well, I'm sorry you didn't get to have that privilege, because
yeah.
those bar associations do awesome work.
Sure.
A lot of them give away scholarships.
Yes, yes, they do.
So
Yep.
they do try to bring up the
Oh, yeah.
new up and coming group.
Yep, very much so.
Yeah.
And they do great work. I always encourage people to be involved in different bar associations. I was also the head of the diversity committee for the Hillsborough County Bar Association. That was probably back in '09 or so. I took over for a couple of attorneys, including Cindy Oster, who's now a judge
Wow.
in Hillsborough County. And under our time, we did a lot of different things. We helped start up a section for veterans in the bar association, and we also helped start up a gay and lesbian bar association as well in the
Okay.
Tampa area. So a lot of good things for diversity for veterans and for LGBTQ folks as well. Mhm.
Okay, so what made you decide to run for office? Here's the
That's
giant
a-
question,
That's
right?
a great question. Well, I've always been interested in history. I've always been a big history guy. I've always loved politics. I always followed it. And, I've always been involved in politics. When I was at USF, I was vice president of the College Democrats. When I was at
Okay.
USF, I've always been involved. And, I helped out a lot in the DEC and different things
That
like
would
that.
be the
Yep.
Democratic Executive Committee,
Thank
which
you.
meets the third Monday. That's
Yep.
your Democratic Party for Hillsborough County.
And I used to be the head of public relations for them for a little bit under Mike Suarez when he was the chair of the Democratic Party. And
I didn't even know that.
oh, he was. This is ancient history. This is going back to '07.
Oh,
Yeah,
because
this
now
is
he was a
city
a
council.
city
Yes.
councilman,
Yep.
and he ran for mayor.
Yep. Mike ran for
Okay.
mayor.
Okay.
Yep. And so the opportunity came up when Lisa Monteleone, who was my city councilwoman, was going to run for state representative. So that opened up the seat. And so
Also, Lisa Monteleone sat on the city.
council.
She
Yes,
did.
for about 5 years.
Okay.
She did,
okay,
and then she
okay.
left to run against Representative Sean Harrison.
Yes.
And then what happened was we had a special election, and Angela, I mean, that election was just out of control. There were 6 people in that race. It was during a presidential election, and you had Trump and Hillary on the top of the ballot.
Okay.
Then Marco Rubio, then Andrew Warren, Pat Kemp, and everybody. Then at the very bottom of the ballot, you had us. And I was the very last name on that ballot, which is really funny. So I made it to the runoff against 6 people. And me and a gentleman by the name of Dr. Jim Davison, who's an emergency physician here in Tampa.
And Orlando Goods was in that race, wasn't he? Okay.
Orlando and I ran against one another.
Okay.
And in 16, which is why we've always been friends. And, Orlando packed a punch in that race. I mean, Orlando is a hard worker. And every time that we were speaking at an event, I'd be like, man, that guy's good. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Orlando just did a great job in that race and worked his heart out, and he came in fourth. But when you have 6 people,
Right.
the
And
margin.
there was an African American woman
Avis Harrison, who's
that
a very
was thrown in there.
yeah. Well, Avis, and Avis is it's so funny. We were on opposite sides in that race. Avis
So
and
she
I,
ran as a Republican.
independent.
Independent.
Yep.
Okay.
She
okay.
was an independent.
All
And,
right.
Avis ran. Avis's story, Avis is actually, and I have become very dear friends. She's a
Okay.
nice lady. She has a heart of gold. She got in Avis's story. She had a husband with whom she was married for 20 years, John, and he died of cancer like a year
Oh.
before. And she's public about this. And
Okay.
she
That's
ran
sad.
for city council because it was always his dream for her that she'd run for office.
Oh.
Yeah, so she ran, and Avis too. Avis packed a punch in that race.
Okay.
Yeah, Avis for me, like we probably go out for coffee every few months and we text, and she's a good friend of mine.
Is she an attorney?
No, she's not. No,
Okay.
Avis is a teacher.
Oh, she's a teacher.
Yep,
Okay.
Avis is the
okay,
teacher, but
okay,
Avis packed a wallop in that race.
Okay.
When she left that race, she had a lot to be proud of, and she still does.
Okay,
I got
okay.
her appointed to the mayor's advisory board on police reform recently. Yes, because
Oh.
Avis talked a lot about that on the campaign trail in
Okay.
16. She did. She talked about experiences that her son had. Her son is a veteran who's had challenges with PTD, a young African American man. And she's talked about some of those challenges, and I thought she brought a lot to the table. So, Avis has always been a friend, but that was a tough race. I got 22% in the first round,
Okay.
right? And
Enough to get you to
the runoff.
The runoff.
And Dr. Davison, who, this guy he packs a punch. This guy is a good candidate. We disagree a lot on the issues, right?
Now he is a Republican.
Oh yeah,
a
he's
strong Republican.
oh yeah, he's
Okay.
very very Republican.
Okay.
And Jim's a good guy. I have a soft spot for Jim. I always have. I always will. But we disagree a lot on the issues, right?
Okay.
But Jim was a great candidate. Everybody knew him in New Tampa, and it was very difficult. He got 30 or 29% the first round, and then we have the runoff afterwards, and I wound up beating Jim by 65 votes.
Wow.
It was
I
a
know
real
was tight.
come-from-behind
Under
victory.
100 votes. Okay, you cannot say your vote does not matter.
Very true. And it's funny because they did a poll like 20 days before the race, and I was 7 points down.
Really?
Yeah, and then a big thing that changed the race was that in our first debate, Dr. Davison talked about using leverage of New Tampa seceding from the city.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, and I rejected that. I respectfully disagreed. I thought that's not something that should be brought up in conversation. It brings up so many inequities, and it's just a non-starter. So we disagreed
Yes.
on that in terms of using that as leverage, and in my opinion, that led a lot of people to get involved. Mayor Buckhorn got involved after that, and but a lot of things helped me. A lot of good supporters, a lot of good people.
Okay, well, believe it or not, we're up against our first
There you go.
break. If people want to get hold of you, how do they do that?
That's a great question. You can always call my office. It's at, and you know what? Let me look up our number. I have it saved on my phone.
Okay.
But email me. I know it's 274, but you can also email me at luis.viera@tampagov.net. That's the
Okay.
best way. And I'm always meeting people. I've done over 40 community meetings since we got elected. I just did one on Friday in person with people outside of Forest Hills. And we've got another one set up in December, another one set up in January. So we always do meetings because that's what it's about.
Okay. Well, we are going to, when we come back, we're going to talk about your district.
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
And because you told us a little bit about it, but we
Yep.
want to know the boundaries.
Let's do it.
All right. That's your order?
Yep. Oh, yes.
Smoothing out your favorite R&B flavors.
What's your flavor? Tell me what's your flavor?
In Touch Radio.
storks are bringing me a baby brother. We can do this together.
All right, let's go.
Storks know how to keep kids safe. Do you?
What?
Oh my gosh, you don't know.
I know.
You don't. Oh man, you laugh when you're uncomfortable.
No.
Making sure your child is in the right car seat is one of the steps to safer travel.
I will rock this.
You will rock this.
To know for sure that your child is in the right car seat for their age and size, visit safercar.gov/the right seat.
Cool. Very cool.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
It's important to plan ahead for emergencies, like the storm. When it kicked in, we had a plan. We were able to get in touch with each other in no time. The whole experience was fine. If there's one piece of advice I'd offer other moms out there, it's to stay calm and keep to the plan.
Some parents plan ahead, some don't. Make sure you know where to find your family in an emergency. Start your plan at ready.gov. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
When it comes to reality radio, everyone is a star.
Shining star for you to see what your life can truly be.
On your smooth soul and R&B station. On the World Wide Web. In Touch Radio.
Okay, we are back, and I'm Angela Birdsong, your host for Tampa Bay Politics. And in the studio, we have with us our city councilman, Louis Vera. Hi, Louis, again.
Good to see you again.
Okay, so please tell us where your district runs from.
Yes, madam. I represent District 7, which is the general North and New Tampa area. That includes the communities of New Tampa, which includes Heritage Isles, Quarry Lake Isles, West Meadows, Tampa Palms, Hunters Green, Richmond, and a couple of other communities in there. And that also is the other side, which is North Tampa, which includes the communities of Terrace Park off of Bush Boulevard. It includes Forest Hills. That includes the Forest Hills Neighborhood Association. That includes historic Forest Hills as well. That includes Copeland Park off of Fowler, many of the communities off of Fowler, the university area, parts of University Square that are in there as well. There's a lot of parts of the district that, you throw a rock and you're out of the district. Like, for example, the University Mall is not part of my district, even though it's part of Hillsborough County. And I also represent a little bit of Sulphur Springs as well, and then some communities off of Nebraska and Florida as well, and then near Sulphur Springs. Councilman Goods and I share boundaries as well in Bush Boulevard and Sulphur Springs. So, so my district is very diverse.
Yes.
It's very diverse culturally. It's very diverse economically. It has a lot of different challenges. One of the things I really like about my district is that we're very religiously diverse. Okay. I think we're probably the most religiously diverse district in Tampa. If you take a look at New Tampa, we have many Muslims. We have many Hindus.
A lot of East Indians.
Yep. We have many Buddhists. We have many immigrants. We have a lot of refugees. That's an issue that I'm very, very big on, which is refugees. And it's not because of my district. It's because of my heart. You know what I mean? But it just happens to correlate in that way. That we have a lot of refugees from places like Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Venezuela, Cuba. My family, we're Cuban refugees.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have a lot of refugees in the district. We have a lot of refugees in the city of Tampa. But that's my district. It's a very, very diverse district, and it's just a pleasure to roll my sleeves up and hit hard for them all the time.
And boy, is New Tampa changing every day.
Oh, yes, it is.
You got a Sprouts now.
Yes, it is. New Tampa continues to change in so many ways. When I was younger, New Tampa was known as more politically conservative. Okay. And then just recently, we gave a majority of our votes to our state representative, Fentress Driscoll, who's a progressive Democrat, over the incumbent former state representative and our former city councilman, Sean Harrison, who also lives in Hunters Green. So, New Tampa continues to change. The district continues to change, but there's so many different challenges in District 7. Challenges involving long-time neglect in the university area.
Yes.
Great poverty in that area.
But I see a lot of changes coming for that area,
Oh, yeah.
too.
Oh, big time. One of the things we're working on is trying to get some sort of an innovation district for the USF area where we can have a rising tide that will lift all boats.
Now, what do you mean by innovation?
And you know, it's funny because that's a term, but what the meaning of is going to be determined, which is it going to be some sort of a TIF or a CRA? That is, are we going to have something where we're going to capture all of the revenue increase after a certain date to be used for that certain area? That's something that I support, which is to, you know, create that kind of a mechanism for the USF area. That's something that we're in discussions with right now. But when you take a look at all the different things that we're doing, including looking at that all for transportation money, if it ever comes in, but it will come in one way or another, that's coming in.
Okay, just so the audience knows, we went to the ballot.
Yep.
We won money for transportation,
Yep,
and what happened?
A lawsuit happened on that, and right now it's in litigation in the Florida Supreme Court, and we have about $500 million
That has added up because
Yep.
they're taking the money.
Amen. They're taxing us.
They're taxing
Yeah,
us.
it's
we can't use it.
Yep, it's taxation without utilization. You know what I'm
Wow.
saying, to paraphrase our founding fathers. So, but there's a lot of different things happening right now in the university area that you take a look at. One of the big things that I'm championing right now for the North Tampa area and the university area is fire safety and fire stations.
Okay.
They have one fire station out there that largely serves the area, Fire Station 13, with some help from Fire Station 11. Fire Station 13 is the busiest station in the city of Tampa.
Oh, it is.
And it's one of the 50 or 60 busiest in the United States of America.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And if you look at the number of calls between 13 and 11, which is always number 2, by the way, it's like a 30% difference. In other words, it's not even close. The men and women out there are tired, and just as importantly, the constituents that they serve for crises involving medical challenges or fires are also tired as well because they're not getting the best, you know, fire response that they should, obviously, because these men and women are so damn tired. So one of the things I challenge the administration to work with us, and I know they are, on bringing a plan of action for immediate help for
now,
Fire
when you
Station
say administration,
13.
you're
Castor.
okay, so you're
Yep.
talking about
Yeah,
the
not
mayor.
Trump. I ain't dealing with that guy. That's
or not
above-
Tallahassee.
No, that's above my pay grade.
Okay.
But working with the Castro administration that I work with a lot, and they're always very collaborative, and seeing to it 2 things. By the mid of January, we're going to have a city council meeting where we're going to present a plan, a joint plan, to give help right now through either a new engine or I don't care what it is to put help in the pockets of the people for Station 13 right now. That's got to
Okay.
happen.
What about a new station? Is that possible?
And that comes in March. So
Okay.
to give you history, you know, we fought for a new emergency truck there about a year ago. We got it. And I was thinking to myself, this will be a good Band-Aid until we get a new station. In this year's budget, I got money for design for a new station. I patted myself on the back. Then I always go and visit our fire stations. And I talk
Okay.
to the men and women at 13 and they tell me, that's good, but that's a drop in the water of a desert. So that's
Okay.
why we're doing this. Then in March, the administration is going to come back with a plan of action for new fire stations in New Tampa. 4 out of the 6 stations with the longest response times in the city of Tampa are in New Tampa because there's so many people.
I know they put so
that
many
are-
rooftops up.
Amen. There's that place is just growing. So with more people, you need more stations out there.
Right.
More
And I'm
public
sure you need
safety.
schools too.
Oh yeah, yep. And I know, and we'll be working with Jessica Vaughn, or a new school board member, on that as well, I'm sure. But so they got a plan of action for New Tampa, another station in North Tampa, and Channelside. That's another area where you've got all these folks moving in there, a lot of development, but where's the fire station?
This is a big issue because
it
when you
is.
need a paramedic, you need a paramedic
Amen.
within minutes.
Yep. And guess what? You work hard in the city of Tampa. You own a business. You have a house. You pay your taxes. You ought to get the benefit of city
That's
services. And for me, the number one priority of local government is public safety. That's such an
Yes.
important issue. And that when you make that call to 911 and you want a firefighter there, an EMS there, you ought to make sure that you get it no matter where you live.
Right.
Because remember, in North Tampa, a lot of these communities that are served by 13 are lower income communities. Talking about
I'm
the
just going to ask
university
you,
area.
what about the university area?
Yep, Sulphur Springs, University area, Copeland Park, Bush Boulevard. These are working family communities that are served by
Right.
11 and by 13. And and they're being left behind, and we got to make sure to have their back. So for
Yes.
me, this is an issue not only of public safety, but of equity and social justice, as far as I'm concerned. So, when I believe in something, Angela, I go to bat like a wrecking ball for it. You know what I'm saying? I'm a true believer on this stuff. I joke with people. I didn't get into politics for pay because I'm taking a pay cut, right? I'm doing this thing because I want to fight for the issues I care about, whether it's public safety, whether it's the state certified apprenticeships that I'm doing, whether it's the lynching memorial, whatever it is. I come out of all different fields and stuff because I'm passionate about stuff.
Right.
And if somebody disagrees with me, I'll be a gentleman about it, right? I'll be collaborative, I'll work, but you can't stop passion and you can't stop sincerity. That's what I always tell people.
Now, are you the president of the board
Of
the
city council, I used to be, but
You
no.
used
So
to be, okay.
I got elected in March of 19, and then a year later or so, I nominated my friend and colleague Guido Maniscalco to be chair, and
Okay.
Guido now is chair. So,
Okay.
kind of the way that I saw it was, Angela, a lot of people, and this happens in a lot of different boards, they become chair and they want to keep it up, keep it up, keep it up.
Okay.
And I go, let's give somebody else a chance.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Maybe I'll come
Move
back.
it around. Move it
Yeah,
around.
maybe
Spread
I'll
the
come
love.
back one day. Maybe I won't. I don't really care.
Right.
I think I did a good job. I had fun most of the time at it. But I know that Councilman Maniscalco would be a fine chair. I know he expressed a desire for that.
Okay.
And we got to be
Let's go
colleagues.
over who your colleagues
Yes,
are.
certainly. So we have in the city of Tampa, and that's a great question. We have 4 individuals who represent districts
Okay.
exclusively. Now, all 7 of us represent everybody, as far as I'm concerned. I
Your vote is
represent-
equal. Wait.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And I'm not going to vote against East Tampa or West Tampa or whatever because of my district. I always weigh everything equally, and I know we all do that. But so we have myself. Then you have Councilman Maniscalco, who represents a little bit of South Tampa, and then some of those West Tampa communities.
Okay.
Then you have Councilman Orlando Goods, who I ran against in 16, who is, I call him the wrecking ball because he brings it on for his district, and he represents a lot of downtown Tampa Heights, a little bit of Seminole Heights, and then East Tampa.
Okay.
And then you've got Bill Carlson, who was elected in 19, who represents South Tampa. So Bill is the city councilman for South Tampa. Then there are 3 individuals who represent and are voted upon by all of the city of Tampa.
Okay.
Right?
So
That
they're
is-
citywide.
Yes, madam. So you
Okay.
have Councilman Joe Citro,
Okay.
who ran in 19 and was elected. And
I
Joe...
believe that was his second try, and he got in.
Something like that. Yep.
Yes,
And
yes.
Joe had tried a few times, and
Yeah.
he got in this time, and Joe worked really hard for that, I know. Then you have Councilman John Dinkfelder, who came back. John served from, I think it was 95 to 03, if memory serves me right.
Okay. He did 8 years, right?
Yeah, he did 8 years,
Okay.
about 7 or 8 years before. And he came back, and he lives in Seminole Heights.
Okay.
And he represents, again, all of the city of Tampa. And John is
Okay.
a very hard worker as well. And then you've got our the Cal Ripken of City Council, Charlie Miranda.
He never misses a meeting.
Yeah, and he's always. Charlie Miranda started at City Council. He's represented council off and on since '74, 4 years before I was born.
Wow.
I've seen city
4
parks.
years before you were born.
I saw. I think it is. I forgot what park it was, but I was at a park that it was founded in '77, and it had Charlie listed as the vice chair of City Council. I'm like, dude, I was in my mother's womb, and this guy's the vice chair of City Council. What's up with
He's
that?
still there.
Oh yeah, so
What,
Charlie's
now,
a hard worker.
he's citywide?
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
Okay, okay.
He jumps back and forth between Guido's seat
I see.
and then citywide.
I see.
So he always does that a lot, and that's Charlie. So, but that's us, and then of course we have Mayor Castor, who was in 19, and then 5 of us will be up again in 23 for re-election.
5 of
Yep.
you.
And then Guido is termed out of his district. He can run citywide if he wants.
Okay.
And then Charlie's termed out of his district, and he can run in Guido's seat if he wants. And what's
Okay.
going to happen beats me.
Beats you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we got another break.
There you go. Let's do it.
All right. But we'll be back.
Too much fun.
Ladies and gentlemen, know what time it is.
Grab some lunch and let's talk business with Cheryl Cuso every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m.
This is how it should be done.
Listen in on In Touch Radio.
It may be hard to believe, but people just like you are already saving money. FeedThePig.org makes it easy. Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving without going overboard. So you don't need to start foraging wild berries.
I was skeptical, but these are actually pretty good.
You don't need to sell your soul to the devil.
$15 is the best I can do.
You just need FeedThePig.org. Don't get left behind. Get tips and tools at FeedThePig.org. Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all gotta see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text Barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text Barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
It's a beautiful day.
This is Daryl Johnson
And Tampa Bay Tammy.
wishing all our listeners all over the world
Happy holidays.
happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you.
From In Touch News
And radio.
Okay. Wow, I'm back again with my friend and yours, your city councilman, Louis Vera. I'm Angela Birdsong. You're listening to Tampa Bay Politics. Got a new sign now. You can read it. We're moving up in the world. Okay, now we got some important topics that I know some listeners out there want to talk about, and one of them is affordable housing in the city of Tampa. If you have some if you have a comment on affordable housing or anything that you want to talk to your city councilman about, you can call in at 813-444-9588. It's on the screen. Okay, so this is the topic on the table right now, affordable housing. What do you have to tell us?
Well, you know, affordable housing is one of those issues that's there with other issues like transportation, economic development, vocational training, transportation, et cetera, where people in the city of Tampa are demanding change. You know, when I look at the things that we heard in 2019 and 18 on the campaign trail on affordable housing, and then a lot of the things that we've heard in the last 9 months during COVID and following George Floyd, I see a lot of them put together, which is that people want a responsive government, a government that is active there for the things that people cannot secure on their own but should have otherwise.
Yes.
Things like affordable housing, things like good training, things like transportation that gets them to point A to point B. And
healthcare.
And healthcare and things like that are so important. And I tell people, these are things that people need to do their basic duties in life. You need affordable housing so that you can raise your kids, so you can raise your family. You need access to transportation so that you can get to work and work your behind off so that you can provide for your family. These are things that are basic necessities. So, you know, on affordable housing with the administration, I take a look at the coalition that we've had with Hillsborough County, and now through further assistance with CARES Act, there's so many different things, whether it's, you know, creating a land trust for additional funds and areas for affordable housing, continuing to put an emphasis on affordable housing in land use. And, you know, we're having more and more developers who come to us with land use projects and saying, this is for workforce housing, this is for affordable housing. You know, under Mayor Castor, that's been one of her biggest priorities has been affordable housing and workforce housing. The idea that it recognizes a crisis that we have in the city.
Now, let me ask you, because this is a question I was always asked. What do you consider as affordable?
That's a very good question. Something that a teacher, that a nurse, an LPN can afford. Something that somebody who works full-time, right, they can afford. Or somebody that works full-time at Burger King or McDonald's or whatever it may be. It all depends on the different person, right? When you're talking about affordable housing in terms of home ownership, you got to make sure that you have folks who can afford to pay the mortgage. A mortgage is a big deal. It sucks. It really does, right?
But you know what? A lot of people feel that rental prices of $1,000, $1,100, $1,200 are affordable. It's getting unaffordable.
And it is. And it's funny you say that because, you know, one of the things I've been working on a great deal is with a community off of 113th Street in North Tampa called Timber Falls. I read about them in the paper, and they're in my district, and it's one of those things. I'm an honest person, by the way, that when I read about it, I went, how in the hell have I not been out there to ring the bell of the injustices that these people are dealing with? You're dealing with a community where people were threatened with eviction, it would appear, or so it was alleged during COVID-19.
Oh my gosh.
Where people are being charged a lot, and where people are dealing with, leaky roofs, rats, rodents, bad toilets, etc., allegations of mold. These are all allegations that have been made. And so I went out there and I met with folks in the community at Timber Falls. I've been out there 3 or 4 times. I had a community meeting that a lot of people were at for apartment dwellers at Crossover Church on Fowler in North Tampa. And I've also met, I think it is twice, with the owners of the apartments at Timber Falls, and with the help of the city of Tampa and with grants that we're trying to help them secure from state of Florida, we are seeing changes. Every time I go back out there, right, you see additional changes in there.
Okay.
So with the city of Tampa, it requires not only monetary funds, it requires not only partnerships with the county and with the state, it also requires individuals going out there and shining a spotlight in some of these communities where people are left behind, don't have a voice, and to give them a voice.
That's why we need people like you to shine the light on darkness.
Amen. Because
now, do you have any projects coming up with affordable housing?
Oh yeah, sure, without a doubt. I mean, we're working right now with One Tampa on a land trust so that we can make sure that we have areas of Tampa that are set aside for, again, workforce housing. The idea that if you work full time, right, that you're going to be able to afford housing. I know that Hillsborough County set aside, what was it, $8 million, I believe it was, in an affordable.
It might have been 10.
Yeah, $10 million in affordable housing grant, and the city of Tampa is working on the same thing in terms of an affordable housing grant. I know that off the river in near the Eulalies, we're doing a lot in terms of opening up additional affordable workforce housing places and just making sure that that's part of the dialogue and everything. But for me, affordable housing is part of that economic bread and butter type issues that are connected to transportation, that are connected to training, where, again, the government has got to do what it can do to make sure that people have access to the basic necessities of life. And that includes local government. I mean, you take a look at transportation. One of the things that I'm very passionate about and have always been is mass transit, and making sure that we have a mass transit connector between the University of South Florida and downtown. It used to be that we would always talk about whether it's rail, whether it's a bus rapid transit, BRT, some sort of a connection between West Shore and downtown. But I've always taken the position that we need to connect USF with downtown as well.
Okay.
That's so critical, because when you implement mass transit, you have corresponding economic development in the areas that help areas economically develop. And what area needs that more than the USF area?
Now, Pat Kemp is big on the CSX railroad lines that are already there.
Yes.
And usually the trains only go through one time a day.
Yep.
So are you?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I'd love to see that. A lot of people look at bus rapid transit and using part of 275 in order to have, bus rapid transit, BRT, on there versus CSX. I go, listen, whatever we can get first. I strongly support Commissioner Kemp in that position. I think that's a great thing, and I strongly support it. But we got to get revenue on that. So if the Supreme Court knocks out all for transportation, right, which was going to give us about $310 million a year.
Where does that money go?
We don't know. It could go, I've heard, and this is, by the way, just stuff that I've heard, it could go to the legislature, or it could go to a fund for people to claim for the taxes that they've paid. So there's a lot of different directions that it could go.
Oh my!
That'll be up to our friends in the Supreme Court. You know what I mean? And it's a terrible, terrible thing. But
now, what was I know that Commissioner Kevin White, who sits on
Stacey White,
Stacey White, brought this lawsuit. Mm-hmm. And what was his standing? What is he saying? What was his beef?
I believe it was with the Citizens Committee. It was, which the trial court knocked out. And there's a bunch of, I'm not going to get into the,
the
legalities of it and whatnot.
All right.
But ultimately, this is my view is, and I'll stand by this any day, is that if the Supreme Court knocks this out,
yes,
right? If the Supreme Court knocks this out,
which it could, because it's all Republicans basically.
Yeah. And the writing's kind of on the wall, but maybe not. Who knows, right?
Okay.
In 2022, we're going to come back like a wrecking ball, right, for another penny sales tax if it comes. And make sure, I'll support it. Listen, I was a strong supporter at the county commission for a replacement tax. I went and I spoke for the idea that in 2020 we ought to have a replacement tax in case if this goes down.
Okay.
It failed on the county commission 4-3, but I was there in person and then over the phone when things got crazy with COVID, making sure that we did that because I'm such a strong supporter, which is people want better transportation. People want to pay for it. Let's let them do it. Let's let the people decide, right, in order to do that.
Yes. I mean, the people want just some basic necessities.
Yep,
They
and they
gotta
want to
have
pay
a
for
roof.
it.
I know. They got to have a roof over their head, and they got to have a way to get to work.
Yep, amen.
And you know what? There's just too many people in the city right now that you shouldn't have a viable means of public transportation to get to work.
Amen.
I mean,
Yep.
if you come outside and your car is broken, you're done.
Yeah.
I mean, thank goodness for Uber, but how long can you Uber?
Yep. So no, I'm 100% supportive of that idea, which is that if somehow the court overturns that, we have to come back and ask the voters again for a part 2, for Rocky Part 2 right there, because otherwise that would be to me a political and moral crime. The idea that that people voluntarily brought this upon themselves for another penny sales tax, and then we don't let it happen. People are saying, take my money and use it for transportation, and we're saying, no, thank you. We
Yes.
can't have that.
And basically because of one commissioner.
Yeah, sure.
Which is unbelievable.
Yep, it's very, it makes you want to holler without a doubt. But ultimately, regardless of what happens in the court, my position is that we need to come back and ask for another penny sales tax.
Okay, but getting back to affordable housing, what are some of the projects we can look forward to?
Sure, without a doubt. I know recently we did the the Mary McLeod housing plans that we recently unveiled with the city of Tampa. I know that.
Where's that going to be?
That right now is near what was the place? I was there at the opening. It was there near where Carter City used to be, near the Riverwalk, or near the end of the Riverwalk.
Okay, so that's
about
downtown.
5 minutes. Yep. So
how
near
many
there.
units would you say are going to be?
Maybe
do you
about
remember?
200. I don't remember the
Okay.
exact number of that.
Is there some affordable housing going up in Temple Terrace on 56 and Bush? There's a big housing development there.
You know, I don't know. I know on Temple Terrace and Bush right now you've had. Oh, are we on Temple Terrace and Bush? A lot of my constituents have complained about the Kmart that left there and was replaced by a flea market. You know what I mean? Yeah, but I'm not sure if there's anything new going there in Temple Terrace. I'm not sure.
Okay, there's some new units going up. It's 56th Street and Bush, near the Winn-Dixie, I believe, over there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I know where that's at. Yeah,
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
I used to live like 5 minutes from there.
Okay,
so.
there's a lot of units going up there, and I
Yeah.
wasn't sure if any of them were affordable.
Oh,
I'm
you're
just wondering.
okay. So you're talking about where they tried to have the main street of Temple Terrace out there. I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know the details of that, but I do know where that's where the Burger King used to be.
Yes.
My brother used to work there, so yeah, I know that area well. Yep.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I do see, and I saw some projects going up in Seminole Heights. Don't think they're affordable.
Yeah.
Midtown going up, not affordable.
And that's the big thing, which is we got to make sure we got to fight that idea, which is why we're having a lot of things go, near the downtown areas that downtown is relegated to wealthy people.
I know.
We got to fight that 110%. It's kind of like when I talk about my apprenticeship ordinance, which is we have to stop this idea that the best and the brightest in Tampa are people with a master's from Emory. Right? The
Yes.
best and the brightest include our teachers. They include our nurses. They include our LPNs. They include our construction workers, our pipe fitters, our electrical workers, our welders, et cetera, et cetera.
All of our essential workers.
Amen.
We need them.
Those are also our best and the brightest, and we got to make sure that they have a place at the table when it comes to training, when it comes to affordable housing, when it comes on how to get from point A to point B. And that's certainly something that I fight against, which is the idea that Tampa, we have to attract the best and the brightest, right? Well, the best and the brightest includes a lot of people, and it includes working people, people that live paycheck to paycheck who are providing for their families.
All right, guess what? Break time
Break
again
time, there you go.
already.
Yep.
Tell people again how they can contact you.
Sure. luis.viera@tampagov.net is always the best way to contact me via email. And, if anybody ever wants like a community meeting in the district or heck near the district, whatever, I'm always glad to do it. I'm always glad to do it. I had one over at Forest Hills on Monday, and I think next week I have one near Bougainvillea that I'm also doing. And in January, I have another one set in Tampa Palms over at some apartments there. And I'm Mr. Community Meeting. I say if you're going to be in elected office, you got to take the heat. You got to take the heat.
Yes, yes. People need to talk to you.
Amen. Sometimes yell at you.
By now, we're all aware of the dangers of COVID-19. Like others with existing health issues, cancer patients are at a high risk due to their compromised condition. If you are newly diagnosed with cancer, your care likely can't wait. Moffitt Cancer Center is the best place for your cancer concerns and to provide guidance to help you plan your next steps. We're here for you. Call 1-888-456-2839 or go to moffitt.org/here-for-you.
The sole purpose.
I know you're gonna dig this.
With Keith Harris and attorney Monica Harris is every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. What's your purpose? In Touch Radio.
We're playing your favorite old school. Today's R&B. With a smooth touch of jazz. You're listening to In Touch Radio.
Okay, we're back. I believe this is our final break already, isn't it?
The final count.
I'm talking to my lady producer, Anna. Yay, in the house. We like it when ladies are in charge. Okay, I am back with City Councilman Louis Vera. He's sitting on our city council, and we're so happy that he came to visit. Now, you know what? We do have a global pandemic going on, so we would, we need to talk about the things that the city is doing.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I believe you're giving out masks. Are you giving out masks?
Oh, yeah, we can, the city of Tampa continues gives out masks. I always salute the leadership of members of council, all of us, of Mayor Jane Castor, of people on county commission. I think that, there have been many people who have taken very difficult stands during this time. The basic idea is that government should really do two things, which is, number one, government should lead by example.
Absolutely.
Whenever it comes to wearing masks. Government should lead by example whenever it comes to making sure that people do the things that they ought to do so that we can get this pandemic under control.
Absolutely.
That's so doggone important. And government ought to also provide for people in a time when we have a crisis. And thanks to bipartisan leadership in Washington with the CARES Act, the city of Tampa has been able to get some real relief out to people through One Tampa to give people assistance, with utilities.
What does One Tampa assist you with?
Sure. Well, it assisted with things like utilities, rent payments, commercial rent payments, et cetera. The big purpose, by the way, behind municipal programs, whether in Tampa or in other cities, is that we're here to cover those cracks.
Okay.
Because sometimes the federal government's late. The state of Florida, we know about them and unemployment compensation.
Yes.
Don't get me started there.
Unfortunately,
that's
been a national crime. We're on the news for that.
It's awful. It is. People have gone through hell because of malfeasance, and it should disturb us all. So, with the city of Tampa's initiatives, we're not there to provide people with, we don't have the monetary means to provide people with the kind of help that the state can or the federal government can. What we can do is bridge that gap.
Okay.
And I think that we've done a very, very good job in that regard in many ways. We can always do better. We're studying how to do better, et cetera. But a lot of communities are hurting. I tell people that before the pandemic, when we had what appeared to be a pretty darn good economy, we had people who were hurting. We had communities that were undergoing a Category 1 or 2 hurricane. COVID makes them undergo a Category 4 hurricane. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Go talk to people in Sulphur Springs. Go talk to people at USF area. Go talk to people in East Tampa. Go talk to people in, parts of West Tampa who are really, really struggling in the city of Tampa. They were struggling before COVID.
I know.
And now
they're just showing us it's just making what was bad worse.
Amen. Yeah, and it's awful. So, I think we've done a good thing there. And also, I think with the city of Tampa, one of the things that's very important is that we provide for people economically. One of the things that I'm working on, which I'm very proud of, and we may get ourselves preempted on it by Tallahassee, is an apprenticeship ordinance, is seeing to it that larger contracts in the city of Tampa for construction that are over $1 million, and Gwen Myers and Pat Kemp are working on this as well.
These are our county commissioners.
Yep, county commissioners, and I'm doing this for the city, that 12% of those contracts are through state certified apprenticeships. And that's a whole long story, but the reason I'm working on this issue is because you take that young man or young woman graduating from Middleton or Jefferson or King or wherever, and you got to give them hope. You got to make sure that they know
everybody's
that
not college material.
Yeah,
and that's okay.
Yep, amen. And that there is a pathway to the middle class for them through welding, through electrical work, through some sort of a skilled trade, pipe fitting, whatever it may be. And again, it goes back to that issue of the best and the brightest, which is when a lot of people talk about the best and the brightest, they're talking about the well-off. They're talking about people who go to colleges and come back and start off earning $100,000. And God bless them. I'm not putting that down. I'm a lawyer, right? But we need to make sure that
everybody has a chance.
And this also fights something that is so real and so critical and so pressing on our populations, which is the school to prison pipeline.
Yes.
The idea that, many families feel that when they're in school, they're on a pathway right to hell. Yes. And we got to stop that. And this is one of the ways that we can do that.
Absolutely. There's a guy named Mike Reeves who has Reeves Plumbing.
Sure.
And he actually learned his trade in high school.
Yep. There you go. We got to get back to that, which is making sure that people have skills for life, that you can't get them, like the old song goes, you can't take that away from me. They can't take that away from you. When you become a welder, when you become a pipe fitter, when you become an electrical worker, that is a skill for life.
That's right.
I remember talking to a mom at Timber Falls off 113th Street, and I was talking to her about some of the things that the city was doing, and I talked about our apprenticeship program, and I'll never forget her telling me that she would give her right arm, right, if her son could become something like a plumber or an electrician. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
People like that for whom economic dignity is a lost dream because they don't feel respected, and they don't feel that people like me listen to them. And
this is why we have people in the streets.
Amen. Yeah, because people don't feel like they're being listened to. So my view is,
and they don't have a way out or a way up.
Yep, exactly. Upward mobility. I mean, throughout the last 40 years in our country, we have waged a war on upward mobility.
Yes.
On the idea that we're going to help you acquire the skills and the tools that you need so that you can improve your lot in life.
Everything that helps people, they go after it. Pell Grants, you name it. They want to cut it out.
It's been a war on the middle class and a war on people struggling to get into the middle class.
Yes.
And for all of us, whether we're Republican or Democrat, that ought to enrage us. That ought to trouble us at the very least, because we know how the middle class was made. We know how to provide for dignity. And this isn't at the expense of anybody else. People are successful. People are well off. God bless them, right? But let's have upward mobility so that we have that rising tide that's going to lift all boats. Let's make free enterprise continue to work for everybody. I'm a capitalist. I support free markets, etc., but I also support free markets with a heart.
Now, before you go, how does someone get in touch with the city if they need help right now?
Sure. Yeah, without a doubt. You can always contact my office. You know, what I would say is to contact my office, and we can always direct you. Let me, because I have it here on my phone. I'm sorry. This is embarrassing that I don't know my office line by heart. Give me just one.
I don't know my fax line by heart.
I know, right? Which is
because I work for Bankers Life and Colonial Penn during the day, and I tell you, I don't know how to tell you to fax
7073 274 7073. That's my office.
Say it again. 813
274 7073.
That's how you get hold.
I have it saved on my phone, but I don't have it saved on my memory.
Now, what if someone is about to be evicted? Can you help them out?
Yeah, of course. We deal with that stuff all the time. Where that's what we did over at Crossover Church, where we had people from Bay Area Legal Services there. We had Catholic Charities. We had Kimberly Overman come with the county and come and bring county services.
Okay, that's one of our county commissioners.
Yep, and so we had a lot of different entities there from the county, from the city. We had law enforcement there and a lot of different groups that from the schools as well. Hillsborough
Can
County
you help
schools.
people expunge their criminal record?
That's a long process to do that, but of course, yeah. I don't think Bay Area Legal Services works on that, but there are many different organizations that help people with that. I know a young man that I was trying to assist on that, and it can be a very difficult task.
Can you help someone find affordable housing now? Is that
Of course,
even?
yeah. I mean, yeah, without a doubt. We have a City of Tampa housing area, et cetera. So, in other words, if you call that number, 274-7073, we can certainly always connect you to the right person.
Good, good. Is that someone calling in? Is it
What
going
do
to
you
be
know?
for us? Who's calling?
Walter Smith.
Walter.
We know you.
Hey, I didn't even know I was on the air. Hey, everybody, how you doing?
Good.
Hey, Walter, what's up, buddy?
Listen, I want to thank you for what you're doing. First of all, what you're doing is very critical. As many people out there know, I am a big proponent for this apprenticeship program. But I think that one of the things that is missing from the discussion is what I call certification for qualification. Certification for qualification. Listen, there are certain types of training that people get that's fine, but there are certifications that people can get right off the bat that can help them to get a job right off the bat, and it's very critical.
Yep.
That we.
So you're saying that we should have a school set up? There should be schooling set up for that?
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Councilman.
No, go ahead, Walter. Go ahead, buddy. I was letting you
No,
go. Go ahead, buddy.
I was saying, it's all right. There are individuals like myself, for instance. I teach courses like that. OSHA, HAZWOP, and HAZMAT courses that actually span across general industry. Then there are different topics, specific topics that are critical to people being able to go into confined spaces. Things like forklift training that prepare people with their own forklift licenses, because you'd be amazed at what happens on the job sites where you have these managers and owners that I call it shiesty, but what they do is they train them and they tell people, hey, listen, you can't take this with you if you try to get a job somewhere else where you get more money. So get your own forklift license or certification.
How would they contact you?
I can be contacted at 813-531-1845.
Do you work at a school?
No, I have my own business doing it.
Okay.
Yes, and I've gone around and actually helped develop different programs. Ernest Coney and I got together along with Freddie Barton and David Jones. And
that's the
we're the
CDC
ones
of
who actually
Tampa.
created the TBI. Yes, we're the ones who actually put the TBI together.
Are they having classes over at the CDC of Tampa on Hillsborough?
Yes, they do have classes. Yes, they do have classes over there.
Yeah, because they teach some kind of construction training there.
We're meeting there in January, right, Walter, at the CDC?
That is correct.
Yep.
That is correct.
I was going to go there with my good friend Walter. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Walter is a former candidate too.
Yep, and a good guy, and a real fighter for justice and equity. And Walter is one of those folks that always does the right thing and fights passionately. That's one of the things I always love to see is people that are out there not promoting themselves, but like Walter, promoting issues because they care about people. And
well,
Walter's
Walter,
got a hug for everybody.
You just got in under the wire because we're about to sign off.
Yeah, listen, thank you for that moment. Listen, keep doing what you're doing. Keep fighting the good fight. I'm there to help back this whole concept up. Absolutely.
Thank you, buddy. Merry Christmas.
Thank you for being there.
Happy holidays. All right. Merry Christmas to everybody.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So stay tuned because the next show coming up is called Let's Talk Business with our friend, Ms. Cheryl Crusoe. And, we got a lot of voices on In Touch News now, so follow us on Facebook and YouTube. That's In-Touch News. So we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to In Touch Radio, where everybody is a star. Anna told me to